That's really cool.
I've been told by my wife that I had a bit of a Napoleon.
I can see that. I'll give you $2,000 for it, man. That's the best I can do.
You know what? I much for it, so let's do it.
Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most iconic figures in world history. So imagine walking into a pawn shop claiming to have a letter personally signed by the emperor himself. It's bold, it's dramatic, and if it's legit, it's worth serious cash. But there's a problem. This authentic Napoleon letter? Yeah, it wasn't even battlefield issued, turns out. It's a replica, a beautiful fake, sold with a certificate of authenticity that fooled even the hopeful seller. Talk about a French Revolution of disappointment.
There were a number of copies that were probably made on the battle, dictated it to his secretaries, and they would have written it down in manuscript, and he would have sent to try and explain to people what had happened. So if you've got these that would have been written out on the battlefield.
Next up, a Sioux youth vest from the 1890s, or so it seemed. The seller wanted $1,800 for what he believed was genuine Native American craftsmanship. Rick countered with $1,200. They settled at $1,300. Not bad, right? Except, surprise, it wasn't from the 1800s. It was a modern piece made for commercial sale. Still native made, still beautiful, just not historical. But in a plot twist, the expert doubled back, and guess what? The vest, actually real. Score 1 for accidental genius.
I believe it was made in about 1890.
What did you want to do with this? You want to pawn it, donate it to me?
I was looking at 18.
You're asking a lot of money for a baby's vest.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1,200 for it.
Now here comes the holy grail of sports signatures, a book supposedly signed by the elusive Shoeless Joe Jackson. Joe didn't sign much. He was illiterate, so his signature is beyond rare. The seller wanted $30,000. Corey offered $13,000. Deal done. Except the expert noticed red flags. The A in Jackson looked too smooth. The K didn't loop like it should. Verdict? Likely fake. And the final report? Brutal. The lowercase e in Joe had been erased and rewritten. Even Corey had to laugh through the sting of a $13,000 hit.
Northern Plains beadwork, unfortunately. I don't think this is from that time.
I love it when my dad makes mistakes.
So it's basically a fake. It's modern.
No, I wouldn't say it's a fake. I think it's Indian made for use.
Cue the comic relief, literally. A guy rolls in with boxes of old comic books, asks for $2,000. Rick drops the hammer, $50 a box. They settle at $500. And here comes Chumlee with his superhero confidence, convinced there's gold in these pages. The expert digs through pounds of pulp. Final verdict? 18 books, $200 tops. The rest? Worth a nickel each if you're lucky. Lesson of the day, not every caped crusader saves your wallet.
Signed by Shoeless Joe Jackson.
This is absolutely incredible. Art signature, period.
Wow.
So how much did you want to get out of it?
$30,000 for the book.
And finally, the heartbreak of all. Heartbreaks, a Gibson mandolin, or so Chumlee thought. He paid $1,500 for it, thinking he'd scored big. But the expert noticed the signs right away. A decal cut with scissors, plastic finish, a wrong pickguard. And the Gibson label? Not even the right font. This thing was faker than a Milli Vanilli comeback tour. The mandolin was a straight-up knockoff. Rick was livid. And Chumlee? Let's just say he got the blues real fast.
Joe Jackson signatures that all the authentic. Look at the A here he was struggling with. It looks like a pretty normal. And then the K here goes straight into an O. It's the K he tries to do the loop. I'm not convinced, but so rare.
In just one episode, the shop saw a Napoleon fake, a surprise Sioux win, a Shoeless Joe signature scandal, a comic book misadventure, and one truly embarrassing mandolin mix-up. Sometimes you strike gold, other times it's fool's gold. But at the gold and silver pawn shop, every day's a gamble. And for Chumlee? Well, he's got $1,500 worth of lessons to play on that mandolin. Real or not, keep your coays close, your experts closer, and never forget, just because it looks legendary doesn't mean it is. This one is straight out of the history books, folks. What if I told you there was a piece of history that could take you back to the very moment Abraham Lincoln was assassinated? Let's dive into one of the most sought-after pieces of American history, a John Wilkes Booth wanted poster. It all starts with a man named John walking into the pawn shop, ready to part ways with a significant piece of American history, a John Wilkes Booth wanted poster.
What do we got? I have assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
This is a really history.
This poster was printed right after the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln at Ford's Theater, and it's one of only 30 or 40 known to exist.
I came to the pawn shop today to sell a poster of this type is not quite pristine. So I'm hoping to get maybe a 30 to buy more documents.
To give you some context, the manhunt for Booth after he shot Lincoln was intense. Imagine the chaos, the fear, the uncertainty. The nation was shaken, and they needed this poster to catch him. Unfortunately, by the time they got around to printing these posters, Booth had already been on the run for several days, and within a week, he was dead. John Wilkes Booth was more than just a famous actor. He was one of the most infamous figures in American history. After killing Lincoln, he jumped to the stage at Ford's Theater and fled, thinking he'd be a hero in the South. But instead, his act led to the country mourning the loss of its greatest president.
Illinois, there's only about 30 or 40 of these. He was already caught, and he was killed on 6.
The poster John has is far from pristine. In fact, it's seen better days. Ripped edges, faded ink, it's got the scars of time. But even in its rough condition, this piece is a gold mine for any serious collector. A pristine version of this wanted poster could fetch $100,000. However, John hopes for a third of that, around $30,000, to help fund his passion for collecting more historical documents.
John Wilkes Booth was one of the most famous actors in America.
This is the story from history class. John Wilkes Booth shot
Corey's got his doubts though. It looks old, but how can we be sure it's legit, he says. And honestly, he's got a point. Fakes have been around for just as long as valuable artifacts. So, to get to the bottom of it, Corey calls in an expert, a guy who knows his Civil War documents inside and out. Enter Dana, the expert from early American history auctions. He's got one of the real posters with him to compare side by side. As soon as Dana lays eyes on John's poster, it's clear this one isn't the real deal.
stain of innocent arrestment of the murderer. They were affected.
Or just manhunt.
Wouldn't surprise me. Lincoln's.
While it's not a modern fake, Dana suggests it might be an early reproduction made for the 50th anniversary of Lincoln's assassination. Definitely not worth anywhere near what John was hoping for, maybe $100 at best. That's a tough blow for someone who was hoping to strike it rich.
They're worth a lot of money. It's in pretty rough shape. Booth wanted post would be extremely bad. Any condition. But when it comes to condition, always matters. How much do you want for it?
Pristine, odd sides go for, I'd be happy, you know?
But here's the twist. Dana's got the real deal with him. A legitimate $100,000 John Wilkes Booth wanted poster. And what does Rick Harrison do? He's immediately interested. The problem? They're nowhere near agreeing on the price. Rick wants to take it for $100,000, but Dana holds firm, aiming for $160,000. After some back and forth, the deal stalls, but the excitement is palpable. Rick knows he can't get it at that price, but at least he's had a chance to see it in person, something most people can only dream about.
You know, I'm not gonna put out money. This is amazing. Anything ever to come in my shop. There was a ton of fakes out there. It's not like fakes have been around for 10 years. Some guy in the 1800s didn't fake this. I'm gonna go give my buddy a call. This guy, this.
In the end, John walked away empty-handed, but what a ride. From hopes of a fortune to the sobering reality of a fake, it's just another reminder that sometimes the value of history can be deceiving. It's tough for John, but at least he's now got the knowledge that there's a real piece of history still out there. And maybe, just maybe, it'll find its way into the pawn shop one day.
Hey, Dana.
Good to see you.
Wow.
I'm president of early American history in Civil War, autographs, documents. Well, that's an important item. I happen to have a very good client who owns an original. I brought it with me so we could do
One that's proven to be real.
Well, that's the roller coaster of a story of the John Wilkes Booth wanted poster. History, fakes, and the chase for value. That's the Pawn Stars experience.
The $100,000 reward was in the history of America.
So what's this one worth?
About a decade ago, and that was not in as good condition. Production, a long time ago.
Well, thanks for bringing it in.
You guys. Thanks a lot, man.
Do you believe in vampires? Well, one collector walked into the pawn shop with something that might just change your mind.
How you doing today?
In that box, it's gonna be something creepy, right?
I have an original 19th century vampire killing set.
Rick opens the box and immediately knows it's something out of the ordinary. I have an original 19th century vampire killing set, says the seller.
Pops, I wouldn't touch that. Seems creepy.
Okay.
To the pawn shop today to sell my 19th century.
The seller explains he's selling the kit because his wife's creeped out. He values it at around $9,000, but is open to negotiation.
I want to sell the set because my wife at this point, she's getting a little value of the vampire killing set at around $9,000. However, I know they need to make a profit and I'm negotiable on it.
Where in the world did you get it? Rick asks. The seller reveals it came from a trip to France. But why was it made? It turns out, businessmen traveling through Transylvania once bought these kits to protect themselves from the creatures of the night.
Where in the world did you get it?
Well, I own an antique company, and I came upon this on one of my trips.
So why were they made?
Well, a lot of times you would have Pennsylvania, and they would go to shops and have these things made and put to protect them while they were traveling.
Holy water, crucifixes, a silver bullet gun, stakes, and a hammer are included. One item, however, stands out: salt. The seller explains that vampires, believed to have OCD, would have to count the grains of salt, giving victims a chance to escape.
I have some crucifixes.
The crucifixes are to keep the vamp. We have some bottles of holy water. I get here, was it perhaps a mirror?
Silver bullets, a few stakes, a hammer.
The garlic, salt. The salt is actually...
I don't believe in vampires, Rick says, but I believe in making money. Rick mentions how the vampire genre is hot, especially around Halloween, which could make the kit appealing to collectors.
I don't believe in vampires, but I definitely believe in making money. It's probably more popular right now than ever before. There could be a market for this piece.
Rick spots a gun in the kit made in the 1830s, but Bram Stoker's Dracula, which gave rise to modern vampire lore, wasn't written until the 1890s. So why is there an 1830s gun in a vampire killing kit that's supposed to be from the 19th century?
We have some things that refer to Bram Stoker's novel. They didn't have the mirror before Stoker.
Right.
He came up with Dracula in the 1800s. Here that was made in the 1830s. 1890s. They didn't even make parts for this anymore. Revolvers.
Rick calls in Joe, an expert in guns, to check out the pistol. Joe identifies it as a how-to pistol used for tiger hunting in the 1840s to 1850s.
I'd really like him to look at this gun. He did an amazing job of putting this thing together, but the devil is in the details, and there's a couple of things that the gun alone might cover his loss. Joe, how's it going?
Good, Rick. Good to see you again. It's Pioneer Market in Fillmore, Utah. It's in guns, shooting equipment, have the old country store.
Well, this is what I called you about.
Joe points out that the gun is the wrong caliber for a vampire and has signs of being artificially aged. The metal is unnaturally pitted, indicating it was antiqued to look older than it is.
A how-to pistol basically made for tiger hunting. If they'd wounded the tiger and they'd ran out of shots with their rifle, then they would. It's fairly unusual that it's over and under, the top barrel over the bottom barrel. Most of the ones you see, barrels are side by side.
Okay, so it's right around 1840-ish it looks?
I would say so.
You think that'd work for killing vampires?
It would be marginal for a vampire. I'd say it'd be marginal for a tiger.
Joe estimates the gun would sell for around $500 to $1,000 in its current condition, significantly less than it could have been worth if it hadn't been tampered with.
This gun being a 50 caliber would have been more smaller animal into the 150, 200.
This is the wrong caliber bullet right here for this gun, isn't it?
The gun is a 50 caliber, look more like 38 caliber.
Rick's honest about the kit's fakeness. The kit is just really weird. Though it's not worth much, it could still fetch a price at auction.
You could be talking $10,000, $15,000, but the condition is not very good. The metal is pitted all over the whole gun, almost unnaturally. The aging on it doesn't seem normal.
Rick knows he can't sell fake items, so he turns down the offer, offering only $100 for the gun. It's one of my rules, he says. I don't buy fake stuff if I can help it.
Even though the gun was really old, it looked like it had a lot of use.
A gun in this condition would maybe set to maybe $1,000 on its very best day.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Even though the vampire killing kit wasn't the real deal, it was still an interesting piece to see. It would look amazing in my store, Rick admits.
I just don't know if I could sell it.
Unless you want to sell the gun for $100.
I'm not going to sell it, break it up, but good time.
Appreciate you coming down.
It was nice.
Coming in, bud.
Meet you.
A seemingly simple item, a Pony Express Bible, enters the shop, but the story behind it is anything but ordinary. This Bible could hold the key to a piece of American history, but could it be genuine or just another fake from the past?
The Pony Express, so it's a quick read. Nothing to it at all.
The seller, with his mysterious find, hopes this relic could fetch a hefty sum, claiming it's one of only 300 printed in 1859. But what if it's not the treasure it appears to be?
I came here today to attempt to sell. I believe it's one of books for $40 for the Bible.
The Bible, found in a box of old books purchased for a mere $40, could be worth thousands. The seller's dreams of a $5,000 sale might rest on the authenticity of this rare find. But things aren't always what they seem.
I got a friend of mine that cleans up old books, and this was...
Corey, check this out.
What is it?
Pony Express Bible.
With the name Pony Express attached, it's impossible not to be intrigued. The Pony Express was a marvel of its time, revolutionizing mail delivery across the country. But could the Bible have really made it across the Wild West with the riders, or was it just another myth?
Why would I want to see that?
Because it's the Pony Express, and I can't beat it mailed from Missouri to Cal. The Pony Express was basically a relay race. The riders would change horses every 50 miles. They would just change riders completely.
The race against time was the Pony Express, its riders, changing horses every 15 miles, the mail traveling at astonishing speeds, carrying everything from mundane letters to crucial documents. Could this Bible have been one of those carried with such importance?
They were carrying Lincoln's inaugural address.
I have, and I've got some conflicting. They had an exhibit where in their article it stated that it was...
The research yields conflicting results. A museum says one thing, an auction house another. The authenticity of this Bible is in question, and the legendary status of the Pony Express only complicates the situation. Could this Bible really have been carried by those brave riders, or is it just a romanticized fantasy?
But then I talked to a guy that told me a different story, so I didn't know what to believe.
Would jump at the chance to so legendary and iconic.
Though the oath taken by the Pony Express riders could have involved the Bible, the logistics of carrying it across miles of rugged terrain seems far-fetched. Still, the connection to the founders' devout faith raises the question, was the Bible truly part of the Pony Express, or is this just a clever marketing gimmick?
So, I mean, it seems in the Pony Express, found with extra weight such as...
to take an oath on the Bible before they could be employed by them.
I doubt if they...
The condition of the Bible adds another layer of doubt. Worn, tattered, and fragile, its spine barely intact. Can this be restored to its former glory, or is it a lost cause? Still, the rare nature of the Bible itself commands attention. Only a few are known to exist, and this could be another piece of that elusive puzzle.
I am looking to sell it.
I have no idea. It's in really bad shape. I don't...
inside if it could be repaired.
I don't know if it would be best to rebind this or not.
Yeah.
A book expert is called in to weigh in on this mystery. Could this really be number 13 of the original 300? Or is it just another one of those tales of legend and lore?
I have a book expert who can look at it.
That'd be great.
A billion questions here.
You want me to go call Rebecca?
Call Rebecca.
All right, I'll be right back.
Express Bible. There's only this. Maybe this is number 13?
There have been a few.
The expert's assessment throws another curveball. This isn't quite the prized Pony Express Bible the seller had hoped for. The reality? This is an overland mail Bible, not quite the same. The difference in value is significant. The dreams of a hefty payday are dashed.
And find out exactly what Pony Express Bible.
Okay.
I found there's only 12 known to exist, number 13.
Thinking that's a 1960 census. There have been a few discovered since then, that they're not super rare.
While it's still a rare piece of Americana, it's not the holy grail the seller thought it was. What seemed like a $5,000 treasure might now only fetch a fraction of that amount. The true value of history is always shrouded in mystery, but here, the truth is hard to swallow.
At all of his Pony Express, they're told they can't swear, drink, they have to deal with their fellow men.
Put me on a horse for 100 miles a day. The first thing I do when I get off.
The expert explains that the Overland Mail Bibles are indeed rare, but not nearly as valuable as the true Pony Express ones. With only a few known to survive, their historical significance can't be ignored, but the price tag isn't as high as the seller hoped.
These were all actually kind of like presentation Bibles. You can see got this description front of the cover, all had a presentation. Specifically mentions the mail company. Pony Express ones.
The seller, crestfallen, realizes that his dreams of a windfall are fading. But even in its damaged state, the Bible holds value, just not as much as he thought. Still, the opportunity for a deal remains. But with a price tag now reduced, the seller has to make a tough decision.
Definitely not official.
Well, that's not good.
A Pony Express, actually more than at least double, definitely into the 5 big deal, all right?
A negotiation ensues, $5,000 drops to $2,500, but the buyer isn't biting. The gap between expectation and reality is too wide. The buyer offers $3,000, a compromise, but the seller hesitates. Can he let go of his dreams of a grand payday?
Well, it's not a Pony Express, particularly one.
I want $5 grand for it.
I'm not gonna do $5 grand.
What will you do?
2,500.
Take 2,500.
Find the right customer. 99.9% of the people in the spend on a buck.
The final offer is made. The deal is struck at $3,000, far from the hoped-for sum, but still a respectable amount for a rare piece of history. The seller walks away with a sense of relief, while the buyer knows he's taking home a valuable piece of the American West's story.
All right, you got a deal. I'll take it.
All right. You want to write them up?
Yeah, come with me, man. You want to deal with that? It looks delicate.
You know, I stick 3,000 in one hand, the book in the other.
What do you have there? Oh yeah, gonna love this. Let's get it out of the parking lot. Come with me.
All right.
My boss should be out here any minute. Hey Rick.
It's absolutely great. Donald Duck say when he went to the restaurant.
It starts with a claim that promises big things, a bike, but not just any bike. It's a Shelby Donald Duck bicycle, a rare and quirky piece of Disney memorabilia. The seller is confident that he's about to make a significant sale, but there's a catch. It's a child's bike, not exactly what you'd expect from a piece that could potentially be worth thousands. The price tag, $3,000. The seller's expectation, high. But does the bike live up to the hype?
I have a small Disney collection, and when I saw this on a website, I have it and I grabbed it. Turns out that $3,000 for it, lesser condition, sell for more. If I'm able to make the sale today, I'd like to buy an adult-sized bike.
The bike's backstory begins to unravel. The seller reveals his Disney collection, a passion for all things Disney that led him to grab this item from an obscure website. However, as he admits, it turns out the bike is meant for a child. It's not exactly what he had in mind, but his hope remains. Could this seemingly small find turn into something big?
When he first made his appearance, he made a short little hint. From there, his career took. By 1965, he was in cartoons, and he actually served.
The bike is cool. There's no denying that. It's tied to one of Disney's most iconic characters, Donald Duck, who first appeared in 1934. By the 1960s, Donald was an enormous figure in Disney's empire, even surpassing Mickey Mouse in popularity. It seems like this bike should be a goldmine, but things aren't always as they seem. Despite its charm, the bike still doesn't quite hit the mark in terms of value.
Where Donald, on the other hand, be his grumpy Donald, and that's what people fell in love with. Because when I was a kid, I thought he was absolutely amazing.
Is that why you're grumpy all the time?
Yeah, so this is Shelby, 1890s. But in the 20s, the owner had a brilliant idea, named after Lindbergh.
Rick starts to examine the bike more closely, giving his take on its value. The Shelby Company, dating back to the 1890s, was famous for producing themed bicycles, including the popular Lindbergh model. But this particular bike, with its slightly mismatched colors and worn-out parts, doesn't quite shine like the rare finds Rick has seen before. The restoration required is hefty, but Rick is still intrigued. Could this Donald Duck bike be worth the risk?
The tank needs to be because the colors are all screwed up. We have to get the rear taillight recracked. And Donald Duck's face, I don't know if that's actually cracked.
That or as a quack.
Pretty good. What does this do? Do you know?
The flaws are impossible to ignore. The tank is in bad shape, the rear tail light needs re-chroming, and Donald Duck's face, it's either cracked or has paint issues. But despite these challenges, Rick is willing to entertain an offer. After all, vintage bikes like these, when fully restored, can fetch serious cash. But is the potential enough to justify the investment?
Because his does.
And they still work?
You pack in there, everything's corroded. How much do you want for it?
I'd like to get $3,000.
So one of these sold at a big offer, $4,000.
Rick presses for more details. The bike has a button on the side, which is supposed to make a sound, a quack horn of all things. It's quirky, it's fun, and it adds to the bike's charm. But as the seller holds firm on the asking price, Rick offers a lowball figure, calculating the restoration costs and potential future profits. It's not a deal yet, but the price negotiation begins to heat up.
You do $2,400?
$2,250. Nice. I mean, I really can't go.
Okay, I'll take that.
All right, $2,250. We got to
come with me. We'll do some pay. All right, you go ahead and play with your bike.
The back and forth continues, with Rick offering $1,500, far below the seller's asking price of $3,000. The gap seems too wide, but the seller is firm. Eventually, they find some middle ground at $2,250. It's not the ideal price for the seller, but it's the best he's going to get today. The deal is sealed, but little does Rick know, the true value of the bike is about to come crashing down.
But I know I can get a lot more if I get just a little bit of restoration done. So I'm bringing it over to Bob to get me top dollar. Quack, quack, dude. Hey, Rick. How you good, man? This is what I called you about.
Cool. Shelby bike.
After securing the deal, Rick takes the bike to a professional restorer, Bob, to bring the bike back to life. Rick knows that a fully restored Donald Duck bike could fetch upwards of $4,000 or more, but the repairs are costly. Bob is optimistic though. The bike has potential. If he can fix the cracked face, restore the tank, and get the horn working again, this could still be a win.
I'd weld up his face, repaint him. I'd work on that for the headlight.
I don't know. I'm afraid to open that up because things always have corroded back. And I want it to quack again.
Bob's confidence seems to grow as he inspects the bike. He jokes about giving Donald Trump plastic surgery, hinting at the need for some serious repairs to the iconic face. With a laugh, Bob gets down to business, noting that the horn and headlights likely need rewiring and cleaning, but it's all within reach. Rick's optimism is renewed. Perhaps the payoff is still on the horizon.
I'm feeling $350.
Well, that'll be amazing. Plus $350. I'll be in at $2,600. And if it's really pretty, I'll get $4 or $5. That's right.
The door for it.
All right, cool. So I can pick it up.
Oh yeah. Give me about a...
Bob sets the price for the restoration at $350. It's not cheap, but if this bike is truly restored to its former glory, the potential payoff could make it worth the investment. Rick, now in for $2,600, begins to dream of the sale price climbing to $4,000 or even $5,000. The pieces are falling into place until the truth about the bike emerges.
That's the Donald Duck bike? Rick, you never told me you were fixed up.
Donald Duck's head is fun.
Did you get the horn to work? Of course. What about the eyes? Do they light up? Oh, with the eyes lit.
The restoration is completed, but the results aren't what Rick expected. When he picks up the bike, Bob delivers the crushing news. It's not an authentic Shelby Donald Duck bike. In fact, it's a fake, a replica made in 1953, not 1949. The serial number reveals the truth. What Rick thought was a rare treasure turns out to be a mere tribute. The reality is a slap in the face. The value? Significantly lower than what Rick had hoped.
Well, if you look underneath, you'll find the serial number. And it says Shelby. First two numbers are 53. And that was 1953, 1949. It's not a true Donald Duck.
Bob is candid about the situation, suggesting that Rick might be able to sell it as a tribute bike for around $1,000, but the dream of a $5,000 sale is now gone. In over 30 years of experience, Bob has never encountered a fake Donald Duck bike, making this an even more bitter revelation for Rick. The fake Donald Duck bike might still be fun to ride, but it's no longer the gold mine Rick once believed it to be.